Hello everyone, T Hunter here. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for coming back. So you already know what it is. Let's get into today's review of Married at First Sight, Season 15 in the beautiful city of San Diego, California. I know that I'm a little bit behind, so I'm more so going to focus on themes that I noticed within this past week, last week's episode of Married at First Sight. I think I will go ahead and start with Justin and Alexis. So Justin is falling fast, y'all. When he and the grooms are talking and, they're asking questions as far as, how are things going? He's saying, this is perfect for me. If I had to pretty much build my perfect person, Alexis would be it. No complaints. I'm incredibly satisfied. And one thing that I noticed that I actually, had like a aw moment was when Justin was basically saying that he feels safe with Alexis and he feels like she gives him the confidence to walk around their honeymoon resort naked. And, as a believer, it reminds me of that scripture, naked and not ashamed. So the fact that he married this stranger who makes him feel comfortable to be himself and to feel safe with her in his own skin, that speaks high volumes that Justin isn't playing as far as being able to trust his wife and build a firm and solid foundation in their marriage. So originally I was noticing, Alexis, the way that some of these clips were edited, it almost seemed like sis was pulling back, like, oh, I'm repulsed by you. And seeing the full clips, like especially after Justin proclaimed that he loved her within a matter of days, she was saying, oh my gosh, like I'm not ready to say that back to you. Do you expect me to have the same declaration? And respond in kind. And I'm glad that Justin let her know that he wasn't pressuring her to say, I love you too, as soon as he acknowledged it and was able to confess that to her. I also liked that Alexis acknowledged she's not the softest person, and seeing how open Justin wants to be with her and how trusting he is of her, that it is softening her. So that's definitely an adjustment as well, as far as the differences in their personalities. If Alexis has always felt that she needed to be a bit, blunt and very straightforward and, pull no punches, being married to someone who is emotionally available and sensitive, it's definitely going to challenge her to tap into a different area or a different way of expressing herself when it comes to verbal communication. So yeah, marriage is definitely a mirror. Your spouse will reflect back to you areas that maybe you didn't know could potentially be an issue, not only in the marriage, but in other relationships. So while to some of us it might seem like a lot that Justin already knows that he loves Alexis and wants to spend the rest of his life with her, I've heard it said plenty of times, especially on these YouTube and TikTok videos, that when a man knows that a woman is the one, he knows, and it does not take a long time for him to figure that out. So I feel like this is just an example of that. Now I am noticing, as of last week, Alexis seems to be more open, and she even went ahead and professed that she does love Justin. And it was great when she was talking to the other wives and she mentioned, I can see very clearly why we were matched. The experts did a good job pairing us together. And I like that she took time to highlight the attributes of Justin that she enjoys. When she was saying, Justin, he's very thoughtful of me in everything that he says and he does. And I don't know how often Alexis was seeing that in her prior relationships. So it's great that instead of pushing away from it because it's not something she's used to, if that is the case, she is open to, slowly but surely, going in for the deep dive. So maybe it's not, she jumps right into 10 feet. but more of the, okay, let me dip my toe in. Okay, let me test the water. Let me, slowly wade into the deep end and see, how things feel. So I am definitely rooting for them to continue improving their communication with each other and just learning to trust each other and open up, because they are strangers and this is marriage on a crash course. So we will see what continues to happen with them. Okay, moving forward. Okay, the next couple that I want to go ahead and address would be Kristen and Mitch. Okay, having a lack of attraction for someone doesn't make you an evil person. Acknowledging to yourself that you're not attracted to someone is not a crime. And things just definitely took an awkward turn when, Kristen was feeling like, I do want to at least see an iota of progress. I would prefer more physical intimacy than just like, a pinky promise, type of gesture. And, Mitch was able to acknowledge, I'm not there yet as far as, being more affectionate and seeing a physical attraction grow, because he just isn't there yet. And that's fine. My issue was, after having this difficult conversation of, hey, I don't find you attractive, they spend time together, have a little nightcap at the pool. They're drinking champagne and tequila, eating chocolate covered strawberries. They get back to the hotel room and Mitch tries to put the moves on Kristen. And I was thinking, oh, that is very awkward. That just came out of left field. And Kristen even acknowledged, hey, like, you attempting to be physically intimate with me after we had this discussion about how you're not attracted to me, that's confusing. Now, if it was organic, they had not had that conversation around attraction, and Mitch was more so giving himself and Kristen grace, thinking, okay, maybe the physical attraction can grow, and then as a result, they were to have consummated their marriage, that's one thing. But the idea of you tell me you don't find me physically attractive, but then at the end of the same day, you're trying to have sex with me. So I'm very relieved that Kristen did not. She did not let that go down, because I feel like they both would have regretted it in the morning or a few days later. I feel like Mitch would have regretted it, because if you're not attracted to someone, having sex with them is not a guarantee that your eyes are going to be opened and now you're physically attracted to them and you see them as, your ideal type. In Kristen's, from Kristen's lens, I'm wondering if she would have regretted it if she noticed a shift, back towards, the initial, I'm not attracted to you in Mitch's behavior, and feeling like, oh man, I just gave this man a piece of me that I cannot get back, and he's reverting back to what he originally said. So yeah, sometimes you do have to trust the words more than the actions. In this case, him having to take courage to have this difficult conversation with her about not being attracted to her. Let's just keep that same energy, I don't believe that things could have changed that fast without the presence of alcohol, and maybe him looking at Kristen and perhaps thinking, oh, she looks nice in her bathing suit. And then possibly the realization of, I've been single for a while. It's been a minute since I have physically connected with someone. I think I would like to try. And plus, she's my wife. Might as well. No. That definitely could have been a recipe for disaster. So in this instance, I can see why Kristen would shut that down. I'm also hoping that Kristen's deal breakers for the marriage. Her saying, if we get to decision day and I have not received sex from you, or you have not told me that you love me, I will ask for a divorce. I hope that her deal breakers will not influence him in a way where he will try to pursue her in the hopes of, well, I can say no on decision day, but maybe she won't. Does that make sense? Yeah, sometimes even if a person is not necessarily sure that a specific relationship that they're in is the one that they want to have for the rest of their lives, we still have pride and we still have egos. And so some of us, we would prefer to be the one that pulls the trigger on terminating the relationship as opposed to being the one that has to has to has to be the one that, the partner breaks up with. And you're like, wait a minute, I wasn't even really feeling you like that. What do you mean it's over? What do you mean you're breaking up with me? I'm not attracted to you. Well, that can happen sometimes. So I just hope that for Kristen and Mitch, they'll continue to take things slow and see how things organically blossom. I also respected Kristen's honesty with the other wives in saying, I don't want to go into a bashing session of Mitch because he is my husband. While I might not be in agreement with the way things have been going thus far, I might not agree with, his decisions around trying to initiate physical intimacy. I don't want to go into full bash mode because I am still married to this man. So to me, that definitely highlights, maturity, emotional maturity for her. And I hope the same for Mitch. I didn't see him, talking smack or even revealing any details whatsoever about their chemistry or lack thereof. So it's promising, that, Mitch can keep a secret and he's not going to go and start bashing Kristen because she turned him down for something where you do have to be vulnerable to, put yourself out there to try to consummate your marriage. So to have your spouse tell you, that can't feel good, whether you're under the influence or not. So I do appreciate the fact that they are both handling this like as mature adults. Like, hey, I don't necessarily find you physically attractive. Cool. So don't try to sleep with me. Yeah, okay, that's fair. All right, moving on to the next couple. Oh, we gotta talk about Ben and Morgan next. I'm nervous about Ben being plugged into Morgan's life as though he is an appliance. The reason I say that is because at the final dinner that the couples had, together, Morgan was saying, I'm not used to talking about my feelings about the work that I do as a nurse. And she even admitted to Ben, she likes to decompress and de-stress on the weekends and just really have time to, release whatever, tension or frustration, stress she might have encountered being a nurse, especially during a pandemic. That's understandable. A high stress job that has high demands, you're going to have to be intentional about downtime so that you don't burn out. However, this is not roommates at first sight. This is married at first sight. So when Morgan started talking about, I wanted someone who is going to be independent because when I get off of work, I don't want to also take care of someone else. And I thought that statement alone gives more context to her friends saying, she didn't want kids. Like, okay, I get that. Even though they said, oh, if she found the right person, she would do it. However, that's potentially robbing Ben of an opportunity to become a father if that's something that he really wants to do. The last thing that a child needs is to know at some point or another in their life that they were not wanted by both parents. And there's nothing wrong with people who don't want to have children. They just should not marry someone who does want to have kids. So, Morgan's approach with wanting to have time to decompress, not wanting to take care of her husband after work, as she said, it definitely raises red flags for me, because what's going to happen as far as the quality of their bond if she gets off of work and the expectation is pretty much, I'm home from work, I'm home from work, don't bother me. Like, I'm hoping that's not what it's going to look like. It's just, that was the interpretation that I have of it. Another thing with Ben and Morgan would be this fiasco around the degree. So let's talk about it. So Morgan is a nurse. She has been practicing as a nurse. I don't know for how many years, but she has been practicing as a nurse. She's legit. She has decided to further her career by getting a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, or a BSN. Her program, she is one course shy of completing it. And kudos to her, because she does not have to have the BSN to work in the current position that she's in. However, she made this decision to go ahead and continue to further her education, which I'm sure would give her, more perks as far as her career is concerned. Now, I don't know who she told about this BSN degree, but there was a misrepresentation clearly, because she said, well, Ben, I told you that I have one course left, and I apologize to you about the fact that, my words, not hers, I didn't tell the truth about not being completely done with school. And I saw a few people on Twitter, kind of giving Ben flack, like, hey, student loans, that's the thing, especially if you're in school for a career as demanding as, in the medical field, whether you're a nurse, doctor, what have you. And I want to give Ben some grace, because if there was a conversation around, okay, your career, you're a nurse, are you done with school? It seems like the answer was yes. And then she backtracked and had to say, actually, I have one course left. So I can understand Morgan not wanting other castmates to know that she's not done with school, because it's none of their business. I was just confused by the display of emotion around it, and her telling Ben, this was something that I did not want anyone else to know, and you broke my trust. And I'm thinking, okay, this feels like it's deeper than the degree. What's going on here? And ultimately, she did tell the wives, I wanted to be with someone who would be proud of me, proud to have me as his wife. And I thought, bingo, that's the issue. There is shame, whether it's coming from someone else or it's an internal thing for Morgan, around her not having the degree yet. She's still able to practice as a nurse. She is legit. No one is taking that away from her. But based on how she worded it, it seemed like, because I don't have this BSN degree, my husband is not proud of me, and that makes me feel bad. So I just feel like this is another example of why it is so important for parents to be involved in affirming their children from a very young age, so that when they get to, the adult world, and maybe, their plan A for a career or their hopes and dreams don't work out the way that they thought it would, there's no shame around it not working out the first time or in the way that they expected. Because the parent expresses, I'm proud of you because you're mine, not I'm proud of you because of what you can do. So, yeah, it's painful to watch her say, I wanted my husband to be proud of me, and she fears that he's not, like he's ashamed of her. And I really think that when they were having the conversation on the beach, Ben, more than anything, looked confused to me. Like, okay, I went to Justin and told him what was up, and it seemed like Ben was more so trying to use Justin as a sounding board as opposed to someone to gossip with. And Yeah. Sometimes it can be hard for us to accept that other people's lives look different from ours as far as, family dynamics. Ben is very close to his family, whereas Morgan has a um, strained at best relationship with her father, and he's close with everyone in his family. So that's, going to be an adjustment. Like, hey, like maybe you're not going to meet all of her family members if she doesn't have a tight relationship with them as you do with your family unit. Family of origin, I should say, because they're now a family unit as husband and wife. And, Ben not having student loans and initially believing that his wife was done with school, well, yeah, that changes things as far as money has to be allocated towards your student loans before we can save for, say, that second honeymoon or, buying a house, whatever those new expenses will look like as a married couple. So I just hope that, Ben will be able to, extend grace towards Morgan instead of looking at it as, like her family life, it's terrible, or her family relationships, they're crap, or, oh, she's got student loans, this is not going to work. Like, I hope he can start to see, while everyone's experience might not be your own, that does not mean that has to be a deal breaker for your marriage. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, moving on to Miguel and Lindy. Ooh, that was a sharp left turn that came out of nowhere. I felt like they were, the fan favorites, and now I'm not so sure anymore. Ugh. Okay, so Lindy gave Miguel much more context around her reasoning for wanting to wait to consummate their marriage, because she grew up in a very, like strict religious household. And of course, as a Christian, there were, like guidelines around, hey, don't have premarital sex because, sex within the covenant of marriage is beautiful and you want to save that powerful connection for your spouse and like only do it with that person. And she did not, uphold that standard. She was engaged before, and this was the only serious relationship that she had had. So they did the full deal. Not only were they physically intimate, but they also moved in together as well before ultimately the engagement was broken off. And she shared all of that with Miguel. And I thought, that's good that she's giving that context. But Miguel's response, I get it, because he said, like, I don't believe in a higher power, so of course he has different opinions and different convictions around physical intimacy, especially with his wife, whether she's a stranger or not. And he was saying, in relationships, I like to express myself as far as being physically affectionate and ultimately being physically intimate. And it seemed like Lindy was still holding on to, maybe I don't want to do that right away. And then the following week, which was last week's episode, Lindy says, well, we're doing what married people do. And the other wives were like, ooh, well, that escalated quickly. So I know Stasha had asked her, now, was this your decision? Were you like completely comfortable with consummating? Because they must have had conversations about it where Lindy must have been very clear. I want to wait for a while, or even wait until the end of the 8 weeks. Who knows? Or at least I don't 100% recall what that conversation was. So, yeah, that definitely, it stirred up some things for Stasha, and it even made me wonder, like, that was a good question that Stasha asked her. Now, whose decision was this? Was this fully yours? Like, no influence from Miguel's approach at all? Are you sure you were 100% comfortable with that? Are you good? Like, Stasha checking in with her, because we know the background. And then after the consummation, I'm noticing, Lindy, not that she wasn't before, but she definitely seems like she's still on the train of I'm all in. I want this to be my forever person. I want this to be like my one and only marriage. And I don't know if it's Miguel being nervous or put off by how Lindy can kind of go on these downward negative spirals and like the catastrophic thinking and language that she has at times when she's overwhelmed. But I'm getting the impression that he's pulling back a little bit, and it just feels like the all too familiar pattern of, there's that hesitation to take the relationship to the next level, become physically intimate, and there's some coaxing, encouraging, whatever, and the person that's a little bit hesitant finally says, okay, you got the green light. And the person just zooms right in, and right immediately after, almost immediately after, or shortly thereafter, we see, the chemistry, the intensity of the chase just cools down, or it stops altogether. Miguel was saying, yeah, we can give it our all. I will give it my all, for the 8 weeks of this experiment. And I'm thinking, oh, that is got to be hard for Lindy to hear. Like, I would be crushed if I felt like my stranger husband seemed all in on the wedding day and the reception and the start of the honeymoon, and then on like day 4, day 5, after we consummate, he's like, well, I'll give you my best for the next 7.5 weeks. Yikes. So, I don't know. Hopefully there will be more conversations, whether they're on camera or not, as to what is the backstory around that shift. Because I don't know, but I'm sure Miguel knows. I guess another thing that kind of, rubbed me the wrong way was after Stasha had asked Lindy, was she okay with consummating the marriage? Probably because of how she responded before. Then, Lindy says, oh, well, Miguel was questioning Nate's motives. And I'm thinking, but Miguel's not married to Nate. And why is Miguel questioning Nate's motives to you, but he's not directly asking Nate, hey, man to man, are you in this for the right reasons? Let me just tap into this real quick. I thought it was tit for tat when Lindy asked Stasha, are you unsure, of Nate's motives? Because, we were thinking, like, does he just want to get more followers on Instagram? Like, Miguel was questioning his motives. And I'm thinking, why is one man questioning another man's motives for their marriage? That's none of your business. So that could have been something that was suggested by, production for ratings, for drama purposes. I just thought it was really weird. I can only speak for myself. If I got married and didn't have to pay for it, went on a honeymoon, didn't have to pay for it, I would not be spending too much time focusing on what other married people were doing. However, I was not matched, and I was not on a reality television show where some themes and some narratives are going to be, coached for the purpose of keeping the viewers entertained and coming back every week. But yeah, I just thought that was really weird. That definitely rubbed me the wrong way. I just really hope that Lindy didn't take offense to Stasha asking her about how confident she was in her decision to consummate her marriage, after there had to have been an in-depth conversation where Lindy must have been like, flat-footed, very firm in her decision of, I'm going to wait. I would like to wait, because I don't know this person and I want this marriage to be about more than just physical intimacy. So, yeah, Miguel seemed a little irritated when they were at the beach prior to sitting down for dinner when Lindy said, well, Miguel told me he's only gonna, be in it for 8 weeks. He's only giving me 8 weeks, to prove that, I'm worthy of staying with. And Miguel said, oh, that's not exactly what I said. And I was thinking, well, I mean, you saying you give it your all for 8 weeks versus I'm going to give it my all, period. I can see how that could be interpreted as I get 8 weeks and that's it. So, but I thought it was funny how Stasha very professionally handled Miguel, where she said, you're over here questioning my husband's motives, but this entire time, Miguel, that you've been talking, I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what your backstory is. And before she could really light him up like a Christmas tree, the producers sent the mariachi band in, and the captions were saying like, oh, like saved by the band, and Lindy was saying something along the lines of, like, we're good, you and I are good, I'm support. She was just basically trying to be trying to reassure Miguel that she was, on his side, and it doesn't matter what other people think about whether he's open enough or not, because she understands him and she gets it. And I'm thinking, well, where was that energy before you mentioned Nate? Let's just focus on, I don't know what's going on over there, but you're my husband. So let's lock in together and let's just focus on us. Where was that? So anyways, moving on to Stasha and Nate. As we see, Stasha has no problem letting folks know, like, listen, if anybody's going to talk about my husband, it's going to be me, not you. So if there's any confusion about that, Stasha's not playing it at all. Now, even though Stasha was not willing to let anyone down talk her husband, I'm getting very real. I'm getting the impression that she's very realistic. She doesn't know Nate. They've only been married at this point, 5 or 6 days. There's not a lot to know. Like, you're still getting to know each other. And they were talking about in one of their like picnic activities how they're trying to show each other, hey, I'm actively working on this by trying to listen and pay attention to the things that you tell me. So if you say, hey, I want to do this activity, bam, tomorrow we're doing it. Because I'm listening to you and I want to get to know you and I want you to know that I'm paying attention to you. So that's great. Another way that Stasha has shown that she's very realistic about this marriage and that, things can change in an instant, when she addressed her concerns about Nate's previous bankruptcy. And, it seemed like, Nate, he wants to prove to Stasha that he can be trusted. And we're going to see what happens during this season. Sorry. I know he was getting some flack on social media because Stasha is having a house built from the ground up. And he said he would be willing to move into the house with her. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, that makes sense. You guys are married. And I guess what some viewers heard was, like, I get to move into this house and I'm going to be set. Not necessarily. Like, you're going to have to help pay the mortgage. There's light, there's water, there's gas or electricity, whichever one, both. So it's not like he can just move into her house rent free. No, she's not going to be okay with that. But, yeah, Nate, I'm really hoping that, the allegations of him having player vibes, I'm hoping that he can dispel all of those, that he will dispel those, not only during the remainder of the season, but, for the long haul. And, everybody has a past. So if he's giving player vibes, maybe because that's who he used to be. I don't know him to say that he is or is not. As long as he and Stasha are good and they understand each other and they're willing to work on their marriage, that's what matters the most. Not so much what other people might think or, what accusations they might make. It's up to Stasha to say, okay, I want to stay in this or I don't. It's up to Nate to say, okay, I want to stay in this or I don't. At the end of the day, they're the only ones that can decide when their marriage ends or if it stays together. So I would also say that I hope that Stasha will be well taken care of, not just in the financial sense, but also the emotional. Because she was getting emotional when Nate was saying, I believe that I am falling for you. And she was saying, I deserve love. He deserves love too. And her acknowledging, like, there's a lot that comes with me. Now, I'm not sure if she was saying it from the angle of there's a lot of, like past issues and, for lack of a better term, baggage that comes with me. Or if she was saying, like, I'm top notch and there are a lot of good qualities that come with me. And I hope that he sees what he has before him. Like, in a sense of, I hope he can appreciate everything that comes with me, like the good, the bad, and the in between. So, we will definitely see as this season continues. I just know Stasha's not playing about her man. So if you're questioning his motives, but you're not having that conversation with him one-to-one, Stasha is going to let you know, don't do that. I'm not gossiping with you about my spouse. And I can applaud Nate for being 100% honest when they were doing what was that? Like the ATVs or whatever they were doing, the trek through the jungle. And he was busy, capturing pictures and videos or whatever. Now, who's to say that he wasn't capturing those memories just to be able to share with Stasha later on, to be able to look back on, as opposed to, ooh, gotta do for the gram. We don't know. We don't know. So I'm glad that he acknowledged while Stasha was saying, hey, you're married now, like you're not just single. Your focus should not just be on yourself and having a good time and you kind of leaving me in your dust. And he said, well, we've only been married at that point, maybe just, a few days. So it's not a switch where I go from being more so like focused on myself to now I'm relationally focused. Like that doesn't happen immediately. So I'm glad he could acknowledge that's going to take some time. It is an adjustment for me to remember, hey, it is not just me. I have a spouse here that I have to consider as well, even in something as innocent as an activity on our honeymoon. So I will always give, brownie points to people who can acknowledge I don't have it all together. I don't do everything right. And if you give me an opportunity, I'm going to make strides towards changing for the better and proving that I can be focused on us as opposed to just myself. So, well, the honeymoon is now over. So this week they are moving in together. We will see all of the fireworks that are lying in wait for us. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future post. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.